pocket full of cash. I scan the stations on the radio, but all they play is trash. The guys are heading for the dance clubs, but I don't give a damn. I'm heading to a dirty little dive where the band kicks out the jams. They say that rock is past its prime, the kids are turning gray. They say that it ain't quite as hip as it was back in the day. And some of them are wrinkled, tattooed and overfed. Rock and roll ain't pretty, but it sure as hell ain't dead. You can feel the funky vibe as you're coming through the door. The lights are low, the smoke is thick, and your feet stick to the floor. Come on in, you can be yourself and maybe have a couple drinks. Ain't nobody in here gives a damn what anyone else thinks. Yeah, the freaks are out tonight, this place has got them all. Bikers, hipsters, gangsters, drag queens, packed in wall to wall. The punks are up in the mosh pit, slamming bodies and knocking heads. Rock and roll ain't pretty, but it sure as hell ain't dead. Ain't dead. Thank you.
Hello there, and welcome to the Catch the Pulse with Rodney. I will be your host today, and today we are having a very special friend of mine, frontman from a band called The Nasties from Detroit. So please give him a warm welcome, and here he is. Ron, how are you, buddy?
Good. How you doing, Rodney?
Nice to see you, man. It's been a little while.
Good to see you.
What's going on down there in FLA?
I'm just holding it all together, trying to make music, trying to keep the home fires burning, and trying to get back to Detroit and do some gigs every once in a while.
We love to have you here, that's for sure. You played so many of my parties at the parks and stuff, and got to tell you, you guys steal the show every single time that you guys come and play that show. The energy that you bring to, it's just phenomenal. I love watching you play. The hair stands up on my arms every time I see you play, buddy.
Well, I know you're busy with a lot of stuff this year, and I'm going to miss that party this year because I look forward to that every year. That was one of my favorite gigs all year. It's like old home week, just coming home and seeing everybody that, the first party that we played of yours there, I saw people I hadn't seen in 35, 40 years. It was very cool.
Isn't that great how it just brings everybody out of the woodwork? And we'll be doing it again next year, and you'll be there. I promise you that. So what made you decide to move to Florida? What happened? I know you're a Detroit boy through and through, but what's going on with you down there? How'd you get down there?
Well, it goes back to the 80s. I was, playing in the Nasties, and the Nasties had broken up, and our one of our roadies, Joe Nasty, who I'm sure you remember.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, he was at Blondie's one night,
Uh-huh.
and he calls me up and he says, "There's a guy from Molly Hatchet here looking for a singer. You better get down here right now and talk to him." So I went to Blondie's and I sat down, and it was John Galvin, who lived in Detroit and still lives in Taylor. Um, and I talked to him, and he's like, we need a singer. Danny Joe Brown, who was the singer in Molly Hatchet at the time, he, had some issues and had made some demands that they didn't want to kowtow to, so they were going to replace him. And I came down and did an audition, and it went well. And then I came down and worked some more with them, and eventually Danny came crawling back and asked for his position in the band back, and kind of said he was sorry and made amends and whatever. So that kind of displaced me. Um, and their manager had another band that they said, well, I can get this band a deal if they had a decent singer. So I ended up in another band managed by the same people called China Sky, which we ended up putting out an album on Sony Records in the 80s. And so and then I just kind of, I've been all over ever since, but I keep coming back to Jacksonville because it was, in the early days in the 90s, it was anywhere, in Florida, anywhere there was water, there was money for musicians. We'd go play all the tourist joints in Lauderdale and Daytona and Tampa and what have you. So, I went for a while and I lived in New York and, tried to do the music thing there. And I lived in Miami for a while, but I kept coming back to Jacksonville. Cost of living's low, and it was just easy for me to make a living here. Of course, I've always been involved in stuff in Detroit, so I'm back in Detroit. I'm involved in a business there, and I've had houses there, and so I'm back. Every once in a while, and obviously, we've rebooted the Nasties, and
Yeah.
we're doing gigs there. We have one August 23rd at Bolero in Royal Oak.
There's your plug, buddy. That's for you, man. Y'all heard it, man. You guys get out there and see these guys. You're not going to be disappointed. I'm really excited to see John back with you. He's such a great guy. I wish you could have him here to do this interview with John Arbour.
Right. That's one thing that's the big news down here is with my band here in Jacksonville, Raw Dog. John Arbour, who was the original bass player in the Nasties in 1985.
I know.
And has lived in Dallas for past, quite a while, decided he wanted to move out of Dallas and, decided that Jacksonville was a good place. He wanted to come here. I told him I need a bass player. My bass player kind of had other issues and it was getting hard for him to continue doing it. So John moved here, and we've already done one gig with him. We've got another one coming up July 14th. But it's really nice to have somebody from Detroit and somebody who knows the feel that we're going for. Because in Jacksonville, it's all about Southern rock, and it's every town has its thing. So we're doing something completely different, and we're trying to bring that garage rock Detroit feel to Jacksonville, and it's much easier with John because he understands the groove, he understands the music, he understands the attitude of what we're trying to do here. And obviously we've played together before, so we have a history and some chemistry, and we got a really good drummer here, and we're really starting to make some noise.
Well, you guys are thick as thieves. I just love John to death. We got back at the studio lounge, man. You guys just killed it, and John looked like that guy, John Stamos from, what was it, General Hospital. And he stayed with me for a while, and we could tell some stories. I'm really excited that you guys are back together. So what's going on with Raw Dog, actually? When did that come about? And tell me a little bit more about China Sky.
Well, Raw Dog is the band, the all original band that I have here. It's in Jacksonville, and we've been, we're looking to expand. We've been playing in Tampa and Orlando and Gainesville a little bit, and we're kind of expanding our circle here in the Southeast. And obviously, again, we rebooted the Nasties in Detroit, so I'm back every couple of months doing a Nasties gig there, and Steve Fernino the
Oh yeah,
original drummer from the
I can't
Nasties,
believe that. That's incredible. He's
played
such
some gigs with us.
he's that kid can swing them drumsticks, man. And he's such a personable young. He's not young. I still look at him as a kid, but he's 50 years old like us. And I mean, I'm quite a bit older than that, but yeah, man, Stevie Farino, he can swing the sticks like nobody's business, man. And
It's fun. We got a good little band. Lawrence Wilson had been playing drums with us, but he's also in mob opera, which makes it difficult for him to take off time and do gigs with this. So Steve is all about coming and doing the Nasties gigs, and we have J.D. Davis on bass, who's a fantastic
yeah,
bass player.
he
So
really
I
is.
mean, yeah. So no matter who the drummer is, we lock up really well.
Dude, let me say this, man. Some of the I know you do a lot of originals, but some of the people that you cover, I just can't get over the power of when you're standing there singing, man. You're giving it such 150%, man. When you covered a couple of the Bugsy songs at my party, it was just, I was completely blown away. The energy that you produce when you're sitting behind that mic and playing that guitar, it just blows me away. I truly think you're one of the very most talented musicians out of Detroit. That I truly mean that. And if anybody hasn't seen Rob Perry play with the Nasties, you're truly missing out because he's just a great musician and he's a wonderful guy to talk to, and he's very personable. He's not stuck up with nothing. But I wanted to talk little bit about your movie that you've been working on for quite a few years. What's going on with that?
I started actually over 10 years ago, probably 11 or 12 years ago.
Okay.
And the idea, I'm in the video business. That's I do commercials and corporate video and stuff like that. And one of the things, and we had a studio in Detroit for a while, and we were doing stuff there. And so I started interviewing some of the musicians that I knew there. And from the rock bands in the '80s, the Almighty Struts and the Seduces and people like that. And it eventually just kind of grew into, I thought, what if I interviewed everybody you've ever heard of from Detroit and asked them who influenced them? Because it's very, you talked about, we do some a Muggsy cover, and we cover a lot of Detroit stuff. And Muggsy was really one of my biggest inspirations. I mean, I used to sneak into bars to see, obviously Tommy Farless was a great singer, and Joe Gatos. I stole everything he did on guitar.
Yeah.
So that was that's kind of who they influenced me as much as Led Zeppelin or anybody I heard on the radio, because they were there. They were real. I saw them. They were they were just an A-level band and just blew me away. And so that was my big influence. And I thought, well, what if I started asking everybody, who their influences? Where is the Detroit music? Everybody knows Detroit is Rock City, and it's famous for music and rock and roll. But where did that come from? How did it get to be that way? So I started interviewing everybody. I went back to the '50s and interviewed the guys that were in doo-wop bands and producers and people who were working in Detroit, and probably over 150 interviews. And I put together a movie, and with, so many people that you would know, so many people. Like I said, I wanted to interview everybody that I'd ever heard of from Detroit and ask them where the music came from. And I'm not asking them really about their bands. I'm asking them about what they were into and what they liked about other people's bands. So, we went back into the '50s, did the doo-wop bands. I interviewed everybody who was still alive in the '60s, including two members of the MC5, Dennis Thompson and Michael Davis, who are, both of them are no longer with us now. Don Was, the record producer who had the band Was Not Was, and he produced 5 records for the Rolling Stones. He produced Bob Seger. He's produced everybody. He's huge record producer, and he was one of my favorite interviews. Robin Seymour, who hosted Swingin' Time in the 60s, which was like Detroit's American Bandstand. He's no longer with us. And John Drake from the Amboy Dukes, who's no longer with us, talked about, a lot of, writing Journey to the Center of the Mind.
What a song. What a song.
Yeah, and stuff like that. So, and I've had a couple of potential deals to get this distributed that have fallen apart. The last one, I had a deal with a company in Washington D.C., and the head guy during the pandemic got COVID and died, and that kind of, so the money dried up, that went away there. So this summer I'm making a whole new push to try and sell this. It's called Detroit Rocks, and it's everybody you've ever heard of from Detroit. And a lot of people you wouldn't know, people from before your time. Again, I wanted the timeline of how did this music become the way it is, and we go back. Actually, we don't have any interviews from people then because they're all dead, but we went back into the 20s and the Great Migration for, when people came to get jobs at the auto factories and what have you, and they brought their music with them. And we kind of dove into that. The country and blues scene in the 40s and 50s here, we kind of got into that and how that kind of merged and went into the rock and roll influences. So there's a lot of, I've got right now, the movie's getting, we've kind of been debating whether to make it a movie or a 5-part series, because I've got hours and hours and hours worth of stuff.
No kidding. That's incredible.
And live performances. We've gone and shot live concerts. I shot the concert with Dennis Thompson, played with a band called Timmy's Organism at the 50th anniversary of the MC5, and I shot that.
Oh, wow. So is there a possibility of another song like the one that's got all the Detroit singers, like from All Mike Strut to Savage Graves, Detroit Rocks? Is there a possibility you might make another one of those?
Actually, it's already been done. It's going to be the theme song for the movie, and there's
wow.
Jim McCarty is on it. We got a bunch of people on it.
Oh my! No
all the old guys from the '80s that you would know, they're all on it.
Sure.
And it's kind of, it's just an updated version of Detroit Rocks. We made it heavier and more up to date.
How much heavier could it be? That song is like the anthem of Detroit City, man. When that first came out I think it was on WLZ, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Is that Brett? Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. It was like, wow, the talent that you put on there. And how was it to work with all those bands when everybody was only getting a couple little bits on behind the microphone? And who was the favorite out of all those people? I don't want to say favorite, but who did you connect with best?
Obviously it was a lot of fun, and Pete Bankert engineered it. Who I'm good friends with Pete, the bass player in Muggsy for many years, and but besides working with Pete, Rob Tyner from the MC5 was
his voice stands out on that. So I think he's like the third singer that after the initial song starts playing, and his voice was just so distinctive and so powerful.
Oh, and he came in and he does that little rap kind of in the middle of it.
Right. Yeah.
He came in and made that up on the spot, and just kind of did it. And
no kid.
And we were like, all right,
blown away.
Awesome. And then, of course, we had the best part of it for me. Well, they played the crap out of it on the radio, so that was fun.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
The best part was doing the show at the Token Lounge, where we got almost everybody who was on the song to come up and be part of it. And then we ended the show. We played "Kick Out the Jams" with Rob Tyner, which that's got to be the highlight of my musical career. No matter what else I do, I'll always remember playing "Kick Out the Jams" on stage with Rob Tyner.
I think I was there. I can't remember that far back, but
you would have had to have been.
I'm sure I was. In fact, my brother was probably the owner back then. I think.
Yeah.
That Token Lounge, man. If the walls could tell stories, it's just a great place to get people out. I've
And
actually,
it's so great that it's still there. I mean,
I,
what a Detroit legendary venue.
I
And
no,
I got to tell you, a few years ago, Seduce did a reunion show there,
uh,
as they'll do every once in a while. And it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago I went and saw them, and I just kind of went up to the front of the stage and closed my eyes, and it was 1986 all over again. Those guys sounded exactly the same. The token was exactly the same.
I
The
know.
bathroom smells the same.
Oh my God, I was just going to talk about the bathroom and all the graffiti. I'm actually, and I know you and I talked a little bit about this. I'm actually wanting to do something with John, the new owner. Well, not new owner, he's had it for 30 years now, and he has made that place like legendary. But I want to get some footage of the bathroom and the graffiti on the walls and some of the photographs that he has of all the bands, not just local bands, but national bands that have come through. That place is just like, it's worldwide. It's and a lot of good Detroit bands have gotten their start there, where people have said, "Man, I'm coming back because the so and so played there." And John does a good job and helps people out. And like I said, it's just an incredible place. But
We played there last year for the first time in 30 years as the Nasties, and it was just
oh
you talk
man,
about the hair standing up on your arms. That it
isn't
was
that just
the whole set was like that for me.
Isn't that just wonderful, man? And nobody can ever take anything away from Detroit rock, because it's like, it's nationwide, man. It's nationwide, and so many good bands that haven't got their due started out at venues like the Token Lounge and the Studio Lounge, and everybody's still great friends. I mean, back in the day, there was kind of a little bit of like, well, our band's better than this, but as we all gotten older and stuff, you guys have all like mellowed out, where you could say, hey, this band really was good, but back in the day it was like, oh, excuse me, I didn't mean to- but we're better than, and they only draw this and that. But as years gone by, you always give props to all the other musicians out of Detroit,
Oh, again, well, that was my favorite part of playing the party in the park, is just
yeah.
seeing everybody, all the guys that we used to play with and hang with back in
But
the day, and it's old home week for me, and I hope you do it again next year, because I would love to be there.
I promise you, we will be doing it again next year. So what's coming up for you? I know you said you got a couple shows coming up here in Detroit with the Nasties. What are you doing down there in the near future?
Our next gig with Raw Dog, with John on bass, is July 14th. It's a River City Rock Fest, it's called, in downtown Jacksonville, and it's I don't know, 10 bands, 12 bands. It's an all day thing. They've opened up a new venue here that they want to start bringing national bands through, like a club level bands. So this is like their grand initiation.
I got you. I wish there somebody would have gotten more on this before I started talking with you, because there's some good stuff coming up in Detroit. They're not doing Rockin' on the River no more. I don't think. But over on the east side, they got the Stars and Stripes and stuff. I think that you guys with the old members would fit something.
Oh, we're gonna now that I've got a band happening, and that we've got the band back together, and we've got the songs and what have you. There's so many great venues and festivals in Detroit. There's Dally in the Alley, and there's they have things in Hamtramck, and the festival. So we're going to try to hit them all. I want to be a fixture in Detroit. Again, I want to come back and play, just because it's for me, it's it takes me back to the day. I love playing in Detroit. I love seeing everybody, and I'll keep doing it as long as I possibly can.
Well, I'll tell you, you're no stranger to Detroit, and everybody loves it here. I know I wanted to talk to you about a little story that you and I talked about. You had a special guest for it a few years back, Ike Turner. Tell me about that.
Yeah. This was quite a while ago, and it was one of my studios that I had here in Jacksonville,
Okay.
and I had recorded a guy named Billy Rogers here who moved out to California and was doing stuff out in Cali. And he calls me up one day and he says, I'm working with Ike Turner. He goes, we're going to do some demos. Ike doesn't like the studio here. He wants to go somewhere, and get out of LA and record. He goes, we'd like to come and do it in your studio. So I said, bring it, come on out. So they came out, and Ike Turner and the Ikeettes, the whole crew, was in my studio for 2 weeks. And it really was something else. And they all dressed out like they were going on stage every single day in the studio. Like they were all about it. Like they immersed themselves into it. It was an amazing experience. I mean, the guy's obviously a rock and roll legend who arguably, recorded the first rock and roll song.
I was out of
Depends on who you want to argue with about it, but Ike Turner, he invented rock and roll.
Well, you don't want to argue with Ike back in the day. He might slap you upside the head or something.
No, well, that was the thing. The whole 2 weeks in my studio, he was sober and never bitch slapped me once.
That's wonderful.
But
has anybody else of that magnitude come through your studio?
Well, I quite a few people in the studio, but I got to tell you one story about Ike when he's in this is one of my greatest rock and roll stories of all time.
All right.
So when we were in the studio recording with Ike, and it's Saturday night about midnight or so, and the phone rings, and I pick it up and I say, hey Ike, it's for you. So I hand the phone to Ike and he's like, what? Again? God damn it. And he says, he slams the phone down and he says to me, do you have a TV in here? And I had, just on the counter, like a little 6-inch TV. And I go, yeah, I can turn on the TV. So we turned on the TV and it's Saturday Night Live. And I don't know if you remember this, but Tim Meadows used to do
my God. Yeah.
On Saturday Night Live. Making fun of me, he'd be running around smacking people going, shut up, bitch! And so Ike Turner turns on the TV and I'm watching Ike watch Tim Meadows be Ike Turner. And he's just steaming. And at the time there was no cell phones. You didn't have a camera in your pocket like everyone does now. Because I wish I would have. Because that was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen is Ike Turner watching somebody be Ike Turner, and he was not happy.
My gosh, that's and
that was not long after that movie had come out. What's Love Got to Do with It? Which really trashed him too. So, I mean, to me in my studio, it couldn't have been nicer. Was a great guy. Had a great time with him.
That's wonderful, Noel. So you've earned your stars and stripes doing your side gig with your business, and you're also just a great rock and roller. And I am very excited that you're coming back to Detroit to play. And of course, we're going to have you at our party this next year. Let's see. I think we're going to take a pause and we're going to play a video from you right now. So stand by and we'll come back. Okay?
All right.
All right, welcome back, Ron. I'd like to talk a little bit about the China Sky era, and is there any chance of that coming back, or have you buried that one for now?
Well, it's a whole long, complicated history with that. But again, that's one of the reasons why I ended up here in Jacksonville was I ended up not in Molly Hatchet, but in China Sky, which was some of the guys were based out of here somewhere in Orlando. And that was that's probably what I'm most well known for, although not in America. It was popular in Europe. And really couldn't get arrested in America, but did very well in Europe in the 80s. And the band broke up. The guitar player really 6 weeks after the album came out. We had worked 3 years on this album and had spent $250,000 in the 80s, and were produced by the guy who produced the Bee Gees.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Carl Richardson produced the album. And we were really expecting big things, and the guitar player bailed out on us 6 weeks after the album came out, right before our tour. We were supposed to tour with ZZ Top, got screwed up.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, it just kind of all went away at that point. So I had kind of figured that, that was over with forever and no one would ever remember it until about 15 years ago or so. People started to discover it on the internet.
Okay.
And started sending me emails, and a lot of people from Europe too. What's going on with China Sky? Do you have any memorabilia? Do you have this? Do you have that? People were looking for this and that, and just kind of asking me about China Sky. So eventually, I thought, wow, that's kind of weird. And then a record label in England called me up and said, do you own the masters to the China Sky album? And I said, no, it's owned by Sony. I don't own that. And he said, well, would you be interested in making another record? So I said, let me think about that. And so in 2015, we did do another record that I produced myself here in my studio. And it came out on Escape Music, which is the label in Europe, in 2015. And we had recruited, our drummer was Bruce Crump, who was the original drummer in Molly Hatchet. I got a lot of connections with Molly Hatchet. So Bruce, a month after that album came out, Bruce died. He had esophageal cancer 10 years earlier, and it wasn't the cancer that killed him, but the complications from it. So then the band kind of had a falling out after that, and then that fell apart. So we were going to go tour Europe again, and that never happened after Bruce died. He was kind of the glue that held everybody together. And so then again, but we got really good reviews on the album. In Classic Rock Magazine, we got 9 out of 10 stars.
Wow.
In the same issue that Deep Purple got 4 out of 10.
No kidding. That's something to be proud of for sure.
Yeah, that was great. And
I watched the video, you walking down the street and stuff. That's a really good video. If people are listening, please go to YouTube and check that video out, because
China Sky, One Life. One Life. But it is good. It starts out, I wanted to definitely get my Detroit roots in there. So it starts out, the very first shot, the first shot out on the street is me walking away from the house I grew up in.
Wasn't that something?
Walking downtown past the Big Fist and the Rensen and all that.
Oh yeah, no man. It's like
so and then I kind of walk. The whole concept of the video is I'm walking across the country until I get to LA and join the band.
Dude, you're pretty much a genius when it comes to some of your videos. I've watched quite a few of them, and they're all so well put together and professional. I just think you're an incredible musician. I wish nothing but the best for you, Rob, because you work hard at what you do. And if anybody deserves some fame and fortune, it's definitely you. You've always been nice to everybody. Even at the shows, people come up and you're not one of those stuck-up guys that, hey man, I'm a rock and roller, get away from me, buy my music and stuff like that. You're just very, very personable kind of guy. And it gets you a long way when it comes to fans because once you lose fans, man, it's very hard to get them back. And you got a lot of them.
Well, I'm doing this because I don't care if I make any money at it. I don't, the reason I'm doing this is because it's what I do and I enjoy it. And I enjoy meeting the people and, obviously seeing the, people that are already fans and already, fellow musicians that we know in town. And, it's just, if I didn't make money at it, I'd be doing it for free, so
That's the kind of
it's
guy you
just,
are, man. That's the kind of guy you are. You just love what you do, and it shows in the final product. Because I tell you what, if nobody's been out to see the Nasties with Ron Perry at one of my parties in the park, they are just like the strongest presence out there. And I'm not taking away from anybody because all the bands that come out and play are exceptionally good bands and all personal friends of mine. But when the Nasties came out at the last show, it was just raw and strong and hard, man. The whole place was rocking with you. And that's a great feeling, man, to know that somebody that's come from Detroit and lives in Jacksonville, Florida, makes the trip to come out here and spend time with everybody. Just like Mark Andrews from Seduce, man. When he comes to Detroit, and he hasn't been here in a while, but he's very personable too. And he's a very nice guy behind the rock and roll, just like you are. And
yeah, Mark's a great guy. I know
he
Mark.
is incredible. And God, I miss Tommy Farless so much, man, because right before he passed away, him and I got really extremely tight, man. Him and his girlfriend at the time. After my party, they did show up at my party. He was living on the west side of the state at the time, and he was trading fast. And I got a CD from him that he gave me that he autographed, which nobody uses CDs anymore, but it means a lot to me. And when we were all sitting around the campfire in my backyard, he just started singing the song that he wrote about his mom. It was called Mama. And there wasn't a dry eye around that fire, man. He was just he had his demons, man, like we all did. But
Tommy, to me, and like anybody who doesn't know who Tommy Farless is, he was the singer in Muggsy in the '80s, and they never ended up making an album or anything because things happen, rock bands. But Tommy Farless, in my opinion, is one of the top 5 rock singers who ever lived.
I agree so much.
And people ask me, who's the greatest singer ever, and I go, the greatest musicians that I've ever seen are people you've never heard of. You can say, Robert Plant's the greatest singer, or Ronnie James Dio is the greatest singer, and everybody knows those people, but they're, somebody told me early on, somebody very intelligent said, no matter how good you are, there's somebody who's better than you. And that's how I felt about, Ronnie James Dio and Robert Plant. They're really, really good, but there's always somebody better. And to me, Tommy Farless was that guy. Tommy Farless was very close to Steve Marriott from Humble Pie.
Yeah.
He was that kind of singer, just like a gut bucket,
raspy, strong, coming from his gut, man. I know.
And the thing is that he not only could do that, but he could croon. Like, he could make you cry. He could croon a ballad and make you cry, and then he could scream his brains out on the next song. And there wasn't a note he couldn't hit.
I know, man. I miss him so much, man. He, like I said, he started coming around right at the end of his life, and I honestly thought he was going to make it. And he came over one Saturday night after he went to the doctor and said, I did him in 2 weeks. And I started bawling, he goes, I'm okay, Rod. And he says, I'm okay, man. And he tipped the bottle of Jack Daniels, and maybe I shouldn't, but he just said, I got 3 weeks. Why not? At that point, you figure, hey, man, this guy is, he's a rock and roll legend. Let him go out with some dignity. And we sat there, like I said, man, and talked about stuff that, just personal stuff. And he was so gentle and just quiet compared to, back in the Studio Lounge days when they would play, man, he would be soaking wet, wearing a full-length leather coat or a Harley coat, and just like he just got out of the shower. The coat was yellow from his perspiration, and he would give it 110% always. But when you sat at the bar with him and talked to him and have a drink with him, he was just a whole lot of sweetheart of a guy.
He was, but his onstage persona was quite different because he would come out and he was scary. Like he'd come out like he's gonna kick your ass and take your girlfriend.
I know, and he could have done all of that. He was just a little badass, but he was like his on switch. When you turned him on, you just gotta let him go, man. And he was just off to the races, doing what he did best. But like I said, when you're just sitting there one-on-one with him, he was never pompous, man. He'd sit there at the bar with you, and I'd buy him drinks, and he'd buy me a beer or what have you, and we'd just sit there and talk. I got to go out here. I got to get up there and sing my ass off. And he'd be up there in between sets. He'd be right back down there, just swinging his hair, throwing sweat on everybody, man. And he was just one of a kind. And I
saw him one time, and I think it was at the Studio Lounge many years ago. But the band would start playing, and then he would kind of make his entrance. Well, he came running out. And he's got the microphone hanging out from his fly.
Oh my goodness!
And he comes running out, and it's dangling between his legs, and he grabs it and yanks it. And the song "Next to You,"
right?
The first thing that happens is that was what they would open up with, and the first thing that happens is this blood curdling scream. And he's got this mic hanging between his legs, and he grabs it and does that blood curdling scream. And I just went, "Whoa, this is incredible!" And he was up there like he was ready to kill somebody the whole night. Like he had that attitude and he would give it everything he got. And then, he'd come off stage and sit down, and he was a, soft spoken guy, and just, we got on very well.
Yeah. He was very easy to talk to him, and just to watch him, just like you, man. And you stood the test of time, man. And unfortunately, a lot of people, they didn't everybody in your industry believed that they were going to make it and never say, I'm going to say this, never save for a rainy day. They didn't have good jobs, and most rock and roll guys don't, but usually they have a plan and they think, well, if this doesn't work, I can fall back on that. But a lot of guys, now they're working at McDonald's or I'm not saying that in a bad way, because, you have a dream. You have a dream, an absolute dream.
Well, everyone, when you're in your 20s, that's always the goal is, we're going to make it. We're going to be rich. We're going to sell millions of records.
Sure.
And, what I discovered, later on is that that's not necessarily success. To me, if you're a musician and you think, well, if I don't make $1 million, then I've not made it. But, for me, I made a living at playing music for 25 years. So I consider that success. No, I didn't sell 1 million records. No, I didn't make $1 million, but I got to do what I wanted to do and, put my music out there for 25 years. And, I made a living at it, and again, didn't get rich, but, I can't ask for anything more than that. Made a living at doing what I love to do.
Right on.
And I'm still doing it.
And God bless it for that, Ron. Like I said, the world needs more rock and rollers like you that can stand the test of time. And even if, like you said, they don't make $1 million, at least they're making their fans happy. And I enjoy going to see you and all the rock and roll bands that's come out of Detroit. I don't get out as much as I used to, man, but I will definitely be out to see you here when you come to town. And I can't wait to see John. I think me and John, he's staying at my house. I swear, I wish I could tell you guys some stories, but I can't.
Yeah, probably not. I think I know the stories.
Yeah, and like I said, we're all growing up, man, but me and John, we still talk on Facebook, and it's like we're still two kids in a candy store. We laugh and we make jokes and piss each other off and make funny stuff on there. And I love seeing that you guys are back together, and I love that you're still.
Yeah, he's been dragging me out and getting me drunk.
That boy can drink. I remember at the last party, he said he wasn't drinking. Every time I turned around, I had a couple fists of Captain. And every time I turned around, he had his hand in the bottle. And that's all good, man. We're adults. We can do all that stuff now. And he's just a wonderful guy, and I'm truly happy that you guys are back together. Is there anybody you want to make a shout out to or anything?
Just everybody who comes out to see the Nasties on a regular basis. We got a good little fan base, and we're hoping to expand it. And I just appreciate everyone that comes out and remembers us from the '80s, and hopefully people, new fans that maybe aren't old enough to have seen us in the '80s or have been around. The Nasties weren't really around for that long, so we didn't make that big of an impact. We had the Detroit rock song, and that's pretty much our mark that we made. But again, I just want to be in the Detroit music scene, come back and play as much as possible and see everybody. And just the vibe in Detroit is so much different than it is here. I think my camera's starting to sink here.
Is it hard for you to make the commitment to come back and forth to Detroit a lot? I know you got your regular daytime job and you got your studio and all your video stuff that you're doing. Is it hard to schedule stuff that you could make time for when are you driving? Are you flying?
Well, that's the beautiful thing about being self-employed is that I make my own schedule.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful, man. I'm self-employed and at the trucking industry, unfortunately, it's just so up and down right now. It's just crazy, man. But yeah, I want to thank you for coming on the show today. We are going to put some stuff up on our website for you and try to get some people out to come out and see your show.
Yeah, August 23rd at Bolero in Royal Oak, and I think we have a date in October at the Lager House.
Okay, what's the chance of you guys maybe put something together and playing at the Token again?
I would love to play at the Token again. And actually, Steve Fernino is good friends, I guess, with John, the owner there. And he's working on getting us some more dates there. We played there last fall. And it just had, like I said, had a great time. It was the first time I played there in 30 years. And it was just awesome.
Well, we got to get you back there so the West Side guys can see you close up and personal, Ron. I want to say thank you so very much for taking the time and doing this interview with us. And we'll be talking. I'll give you a call and we'll touch base. But we're going to put the video up and a couple other things so we can get some advertisement for you. Okay?
Yeah. And everybody out there, please look up the Nasties on Facebook, which is the band that we have in Detroit, and Raw Dog in Jacksonville. And Raw Dog just recently put out a 6-song EP called Welcome to Jacksonville. So check that's on Spotify and all that kind of stuff. You can check that out.
All right, Ron. As always, it's always a pleasure talking to you, buddy. And I'll be in touch real soon, okay?
Well, thanks, Rodney. I really appreciate you having me on, and best of luck with the podcast. I know you got a couple of different podcasts you're going to do, and I know they'll do well. I know everybody in Detroit in the rock and roll scene knows Rodney Campbell. So,
well, God bless you, Ron. It's been a pleasure, buddy. I'll talk to you soon, okay?
All right, thanks.
All right, buddy.